Hello there, I am Toast Gorilla, and today I am going to be giving you a guide of how to be playing Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at controllers, settings, keybinds, everything that is essential or at least needed to be able to actually play at a decent level on the Nintendo Switch. But before we start off with today's video, make sure to check out my Instagram, Dope Fortnite Wallpapers, and give it a follow or a like. There I make free wallpapers and logos for the people of the community. We're already at about 1,200 followers and I'm trying to keep it growing, so make sure you go check it out and let's get started. The first thing we're going to be looking at is controllers. So I don't really consider myself a pro player in any way, shape or form, but controllers are very important because if you're still using the standard Nintendo Switch Joy-Con, you are bound to get drift eventually and just gonna ruin all of your gameplay. And to be honest, they're not even that comfortable to play with and they don't have any sort of grip that actually helps you out with the game. So I have three controllers that I recommend to you. All three of them are actually good and worth buying. But you know, whatever you feel like getting. The first controller is the PowerA Wireless Enhanced Controller. So this controller comes at about $40 to $60 depending on the design that you're picking, but I wouldn't get it for the design, but more because of the functions that it has. This controller actually has two paddles in the back that you could program to any other button on the controller. So I programmed it to crouch, so every time I click the paddle I crouch, and it's easier to get those nice AR crouch shots without actually getting shot. So that's what's the biggest pro with this controller. The only con is that the triggers are kind of small and the bumpers are a little bit too clicky. It doesn't really bother me. I really enjoy this controller and it's one of the ones that I use the most, but some people I guess find it annoying. Next up is the Hori Pad. This one, unlike the PowerA, is actually wired, which could be a con, but it actually helps you out quite a bit since you get more direct signal, so that actually makes your ping much faster. So instead of having like 50, you could get it all the way down to 30 sometimes. So that's the biggest pro with this controller. The only con is that the D-pad is kind of big and obnoxious, but if you don't really mind that, well, I guess you can get it. And also it doesn't have any programmable paddles, but I guess that's just an extra that the PowerA does have. Next up, we have the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This may sound obvious, but it's actually very good for Fortnite since it doesn't get drift and the buttons are comfortable. The only con with this is that it gets a little bit annoying to have buttons that are so squishy since the buttons don't really have that much of a clicky, grippy feel, I guess. So I wouldn't recommend it if you really like to feel your controller in the hands, but it is the only one of the three controllers that actually has vibration. The other two don't have vibration or motion controls, and if you really want that, this is the control that you should get. So if you're on a budget, I would recommend you to get the Hori Pad, but if you could spend a little bit more money on a good controller, I would recommend the PowerA Enhanced. And if you do have a buttload of money that you don't mind spending, I would just go for the regular Switch Pro controller since it will last a lot of time and it's actually a very good controller. Okay, so settings can be very personal, but these are ones that I recommend at an intermediate to advanced level. This is if you want to play very aggressively, you want to have a very smooth play style without going too far, without having a lot to get used to. These are probably the best ones you're going to have. And also you're going to have to set your advanced sensitivity to linear instead of exponential since that helps you out with your aim assist. And it might sound kind of like cheating to have aim assist on, but it's something that is necessary when you're playing with controllers, especially whenever you're playing on Switch. If you ever play with PC gamers, you won't be able to win if you don't have your aim assist on, or if you do win, I have no idea how you're doing it, to be honest. Okay, so I do not consider myself a pro player, I'll say it one more time, but I do get some easy claps on the Nintendo Switch, especially in solo mode. I have over 100 solo wins, and honestly it's pretty damn easy. So usually I would drop on one of these places on the map. I usually land at Solitude, Retail, Misty, whatever, and These places aren't only good for early game in general, but they're also good to help you improve your game style, because you have to land, you have to kill people fast, you have to do whatever you can with your loot, and it makes you an overall better player. So I would actually recommend these places to land at the beginning of the match, so you could actually get better at the game and also get easier wins. Something else that's very important in case of emergencies is a very clean layout. So I would usually have a sniper, AR, or superpower on my first slot. Then I'll have a pump shotgun all the time on my second one. If you don't find a pump shotgun, just use any other one that you could find, because shotgun is probably the most important weapon and pump is the best kind right now. Then I would have a spray and pray weapon. This could be either an SMG or an AR. I would recommend you to have an AR, since the SMGs this season are weak as hell. They don't work for anything, they're kind of dookie. So you could have an extra weapon in the first slot, like a superpower or a sniper, to get some power shots instead of wasting a slot and an SMG. Also, something very important to have in your layout are 2 slots for meds. I usually have minis and then whatever else I could find, because minis are the #1 most important item in Fortnite. Everybody's carrying them, so they're easy to find. They heal you up for good damage and very quickly. And then you could have like a medkit or whatever else you want to have on the second slot. If you don't find any good heals, if you find only like bandages or something, you could just grab an extra weapon or a harpoon gun, which I recommend to get some fishes later. So yeah, that's basically what you need to have healing wise. So yeah, that's about everything you need to know to be a decent player on the Nintendo Switch, or at least to get started. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to review them and answer your inquiries. I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching Toast Gorilla.